and welcome, my friends. It is I, the mighty Lord Gamerson. And for this official list of greatness, we are looking at one of the most celebrated home consoles, the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo, System of Legend. Home to the greatest of platformers, the most engrossing of RPGs, innovative racing games, and we got an early jump to 3D. Everybody was at war back in those days. It was a mighty battle between the two behemoths, Sega and Nintendo, fighting the good fight that worthy competitors do. In the end, it was the big N that won, but Sega put up a respectable battle. So there we have it. The war is long over. The rebels swept aside or rebuilt, and we sit. We sit and discuss the greatness of the Overlord and his 10 crowning achievements on his Super Nintendo. Number 10. Zombies ate my neighbors. The world is in peril. The evil Dr. Tongue has created an army of monsters to ravage and destroy. It's up to you, Mr. Awesome 90s teenager, to find and defeat this master madman. This game is just great. In this run and gun developed by LucasArts, you take control of Zeke or Jill, or both in co-op, to rescue all the neighbors from the monsters. These aren't the lame monsters. Oh no, my friends. You get the classic cool monsters here. You fight against vampires, werewolves, oversized demon babies, spiders, aliens, blobs, squid men, flying saucers, giant ants, mummies, chainsaw madmen, and the dreaded pod people. You get 48 stages of pure joy, slaying evil monsters and saving all the stupid people around town. And let me tell you how stupid these people are. There's a monster invasion and they have no idea. They're just doing their thing in random spots that they desperately need a hero. And that hero is you. Be mighty and slay the monstrous monsters. This really is a survival game at heart. You need to conserve your ammo and make sure you use your items wisely. It's not an easy game, but it's also not overly hard. This is the kind of game you really want to see everything. There's just a lot to see. Plus, the co-op is most excellent, dudes. Number 9. Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country and its sequels are the best looking games on the platform. What game can touch the look of this game? Rare achieved something many didn't think possible, and it cemented them, for a while at least, as one of the top developers in the industry. DK Country achieved its look through top-notch pre-rendered graphics and 3D models. How could the SNES support these 3D models, you may be wondering? The answer is it didn't. Rare had a little compression trick that allowed them to convert the models into sprites without much loss of detail. Everything else about the game was brilliant as well. The gameplay was so fluid, silky smooth, and wonderful. The enemies, levels, and bosses were also very great. The music is simply iconic. This is a real gem of a game. Sure, the second game may be better in many ways, but the second game doesn't have the one thing that the first title did, and that's Donkey Kong. Lord Gamerson places more value in playing as Donkey Kong in a Donkey Kong title. Number 8. Star Fox. I remember sitting in on a meeting with the Nintendo executives back in the early 90s. They were talking about games they wanted to make for the Nintendo PlayStation. It was really early in the Nintendo-Sony negotiation at this point, and they were just spitballing ideas. They started talking about a space shooter with animal characters, and they had these drawings or cheap renderings or something of the environment, ships and whatnot. I decided to tell them of a way they could achieve something very similar on the Super NES. About a year later, they released Star Fox, and it was a masterpiece of a game. Although the once impressive graphics are now prehistoric, the game still holds up. It's just really fun. It's very much in the style of an arcade shooter with quick action and excellent music. It's a game you just don't want to put down. Number 7. Super Mario RPG. Back in the 90s, Nintendo and Square were dating. Then they had a baby and named him Super Mario RPG. The basic story may seem familiar at first. Princess Toadstool, yes, she was still called Princess Toadstool back then, gets kidnapped by Bowser, and it's up to you, the main man Mario, to go and get her back. You know, if Mario were to just leave her, he might be able to become the king of the Mushroom Kingdom. I mean, it seems the only member of the ruling class is the princess, so I think it could work. Anyway, you actually save Peach right at the beginning of the game, which is cool, you know, turning the expected into the unexpected. Or the unexpected into the expected. There's a new enemy in town. You're going to have to take down the Smithy gang. They even destroyed Star Road, those bastards. This prevents new wishes from being granted, whatever that means. Maybe they've been eating too many mushrooms. Star Road is important. You need to fix it. And to fix it, you need to collect 7 special stars. Not regular stars. Regular stars are too big and made of fire and gas. It would be hard for Mario to hold one of those. So go on an epic quest. Meet up with excellent allies and play this excellent RPG. It's officially one of the best games on the system. Number 6. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4. Turtles in Time. This game is the best arcade to home console translation of its time. I mean, honestly, can you think of a better translation that came in 1991 and before? No, that's because there isn't one. TMNT Turtles in Time is an excellent beat-em-up in the arcades, and it's just as good right here on the Super Nintendo. Of course, the graphics aren't quite as good, but what can you expect? The Turtles are really about 2 things: pizza and kicking ass. They really kick ass here, my friends. And there's pizza power-ups, so the game covers its bases. Krang has stolen the Statue of Liberty. I mean, he really flew right up to it, grabbed it in his arms, and flew away with it. I mean, how awesome is that? Of course, this was caught on tape by April O'Neil and her camera crew, and the Turtles are ready to jump into action. You have to travel through different time periods. both past and future, to get back to the game's present and kick Shredder and Krang's ass. Just don't overanalyze it. Trust me, it doesn't need to be overanalyzed. Number 5. Super Metroid. You can tell that the movies Alien and Aliens had a big inspiration on Super Metroid. This game and those movies have the same DNA. Dark, claustrophobic areas, with monsters around every corner, in the isolation on a lonely planet in space. It's just you and the creatures, the parasites, the Metroids. A greater threat to the galaxy has never been known. The Metroids must be wiped out for the good of everything. This game is very mighty. It has 24 megs of action, 6 huge areas to explore, a huge arsenal of new beams and weapons, and it's got a super battery backup to save your progress. You're gonna need that battery backup because this game is huge, at least for a Super Nintendo game. This Metroid doesn't try anything new. It takes gameplay that was already great and refines it. It refines it to perfection. The graphics and atmosphere are excellent. You really feel the isolation and terror of the hostile planet of Zebus. The music contributes nicely. It's subtle and eerie in many areas and thumping and also eerie in other areas. No matter the tempo, the music in this game adds to the atmosphere. If you haven't experienced Super Metroid, you should probably do something about that. I kind of think this game should be higher on this list, but I just can't bring it myself to rank it higher than the next 4 games. Number 4, Final Fantasy VI. First, I suppose I need to get the history that you probably already know out of the way. Final Fantasy III in North America is actually Final Fantasy VI. The numbering system is messed up because Nintendo didn't release some of the games in North America, and they wanted to keep the North American numbering in line with the amount of games they released. Final Fantasy I is actually Final Fantasy I. Final Fantasy II is Final Fantasy IV because they didn't release 2 or 3 in North America. Final Fantasy V was skipped. And Final Fantasy III is actually Final Fantasy VI. I will be referring to it by its proper number, Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy VI was developed by the mighty Squaresoft way back in 1994. This is a role-playing game with a setting resembling the Second Industrial Revolution. There are 14 playable characters, and you are in battle with an evil dictatorship. The government wants the power of magic. Magic that at one time was well known and common left to the dust of time. Espers with abilities, locked away from abuse. What has been locked away can be unlocked, and evil needs to expand. But good also needs to stop evil, and there's a good chance that's what's going to be happening here. It uses Mode 7 technology, which adds a 3D effect with more layers and depth. It's really good for scrolling. The sprites and environments are very well detailed. The music is the best on the system, perhaps only beaten by Zelda's music, but I would have to give that some real thought. Basically, Final Fantasy VI is simply one of the best RPGs ever made. It would be strange if it was absent from a top 10 best RPGs list of all time. One day Lord Gamerson will do that list, and you can bet this game will be there. Number 3. Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World. Basically, Super Mario World is the number 3 pick here. This compilation was released in 1994, 3 years after the original Super Mario World. Super Mario World is the gold standard for 2D Mario games and 2D platformers in general. They really nailed it with this one. This is the pack-in launch title for the SNES. Yes, that's right, they used to include a game when the systems launched. Amazing, right? Super Mario World was like magic to many who loved the Mario games on the original Nintendos. You got your standard awesome Mario power-ups like the mushroom, star, or feather that actually gives you a cape and lets you dive bomb. I'd say that's an improvement from the feather in Mario 3. This game also introduces you to your faithful ally, T. Yoshiso Munchakoopas. Yes, that's actually his full name. T. Yoshiso Munchakoopas. Hilarious, right? Yes. Riding Yoshi is so much fun, and he's so disposable. There's always another Yoshi around the corner. Lord Gamerson's just joking though. Yoshi is so powerful. When you jump off him in midair, he just safely lands and makes his way to the next power-up box, where he naps until Mario arrives. Do you really expect Nintendo to shell out all the cash for all these new Yoshis? Of course not. Super Mario World is just a wonderful experience. Lord Gamerson has finished it 5 times. Mario World alone would make the number 3 spot, but for a few years after the game's released, it was bundled in with Super Mario All-Stars. How can this not take the original's place? It's the same awesome Mario World on the same system, the SNES. You also get the updated Mario's 1 to 3. It's a no-brainer. What a great package. Number 2. Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger isn't just one of the best games on the Super Nintendo. Oh no! It's one of the greatest games of all time. It's the perfect balance of comedy and drama, with characters rich in personality brought forward by the sharp, witty dialogue and fantastic animations. The art style is a cross between the Mana and Final Fantasy series. Graphically, the game is amazing. The sprites are very detailed and the atmosphere is perfect. This almost looks like it could have been made on the next generation PlayStation 1 console. Everything has personality, from the characters to the plants. The battles take place on screen, but still use the menu-based battle system. This is what I mean by a cross between Final Fantasy and Secrets of Mana. Oh, the basic game stuff in Chrono Trigger is just top-notch. But the best part of Chrono Trigger is its deep and emotional story. It's a story that spans the ages as the game jumps between different time periods. No character is ignored. Everyone gets their own story and they're all great. Even better than great. It's like Great Plus. You know, like New Game Plus. See what Lord Gamerson did there? Anyways, just make sure you do the late game side quests. Trust Lord Gamerson, these characters are worth it. There's even 13 different endings to check out depending on when you fight the final boss. You can even fight him right at the beginning of the game, but you won't get very far if you're not playing on a New Game Plus, but still. Number 1, Pit Fighter. Oh, Pit Fighter, what a masterpiece! This is the greatest game ever made. It almost achieved world peace. Oh, Lord Gamerson is just pulling your leg. Number 1, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. You all know this had to be in the number 1 or 2 slot. How could it not? Zelda is the world's greatest gaming franchise, and this game is the greatest game within the greatest franchise. If it wasn't before, as of now, this is completely official. When I, the mighty Lord Gamerson, write the 10 gaming commandments, one of those commandments will be to always respect The Legend of Zelda. This is just one of the truly special games. The Zelda series, for the most part, are all timeless masterpieces, but this title stands above them all. The pacing in this game is 100% perfect. It nails the Zelda formula completely. You play as Link on a quest to defeat the evil Ganon, save Hyrule, and maybe get a little something extra from the princess. You have a large world to explore and a whole bunch of items to find in dungeons to help you advance. There's a rich cast of characters and even a parallel dark world to explore. This is a puzzle land put together by expert craftsmen. Each piece of the puzzle must be found and interpreted by the player to achieve the final victory, the love of the princess and peace in the land. It's difficult to express the brilliance behind this series. You really just need to experience it. And that is the official list of the 10 best games on the Super Nintendo. The Super NES was one of the greatest systems ever made. Sega actually had a lot to do with that. When you have a worthy competitor, it can drive you to achieve much, and that is what happened in this mystical time of the 1990s. Super Nintendo, Lord Gamerson approves your existence.